23rd of April, Rabbi Furst, Pierke, Avos.
Okay.
Very good. Good morning again. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, as you mentioned. Yeshiva Tzamanashi here in Yerushalayim, Chair of Zoom. We're learning Pierke Avos. We're continuing on. Took a little bit of a hiatus since, I guess, around Purim time. We started learning about Megillas Esther. We're in the 5th Pierke of Avos. And again, the numeration of the Mishnayos in Pierke Avos varies from source to source. But at this point, we are in the Mishnah, which says as follows. I didn't have any chance to make any document. Hopefully, during the course of the day, I'll be able to prepare a document which I'll bring before many of the other Meforshim. We're on the Mishnah here, Kol Avos Toli B'Davar. That's sort of in the middle of the Mishnayos, in the 5th parak.
What was it again?
Kol Avos Toli B'Davar.
Okay, cool.
In my Mishnayos that I'm using here, it's the Mishnah Tes Zayin, but it could be different from one Mishnah to one source to the next.
Kol Avos Yud Tes in Scroll.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Roy.
Oh, okay. Yes, that was helpful, Roy. Thank you.
No, it's 19, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Yeah, very good. Who would like to begin to read?
I can't find my Avos right now, so
You haven't got a siddur?
I'll have to look for it. Oh, a siddur? What page was it, Roy?
Page 576. In the middle of the page, 19.
Okay, I'll read. Thank you, Roy. Kol Ahava Shehi Taluya B'Davar Batel Davar Batela Ahava. So let's see. Any love that is dependent on something when that thing becomes nullified, the love becomes nullified.
Good.
The she'ena taluya b'davar, if it's not dependent on something, ena batela le'olam, it doesn't get nullified ever. Ezo hi ahava shehi taluya b'davar. What is love that's not dependent on something? Zo ahavas known the samar.
The Tamar.
Of Amnon and Tamar.
Right.
V'she'ena taluya b'davar. It's not dependent on something.
No, and so again, the Mishnah said the Ezi Ava Tuli B'Davar, which is an example of Ava, which is dependent upon something. That's the Ava that was between Ammon and Tamar, right? And what's an example of Ava she'enet tolid b'davar? Zu Avas David and Jonas. That's the example of the Ava that was existent between David and Jonas.
Oh, so the Ammon and Tamar was dependent on something.
That's right. That's right.
Ah, I see. Okay. And David and Yonasan was not dependent on something.
Right. So as we won't get to it today, but we'll during the rest of the days as that follow, we'll go the exact situation that existed between Ammon and Tamar, and the exact situation which existed between David and Yonasan, and because those are the prime examples. The Mishnah here is bringing as an example of Ava Tolid B'Davar and Ava She'enet Tolid B'Davar. Just as a preface to the whole subject here. So again, as you probably remember, Ava. See, we unfortunately having 2,000 years of Golas surrounding us and surrounding our thoughts and our even behaviors. So we've been accustomed, especially since the advent of media, that we are accustomed to view the word Ava as it's been portrayed in the media, which is completely false and foreign to Torah concepts. The Torah concept of Ava, as I've mentioned many times, is if you look any time, I've never found an exception. I've looked pretty extensively in all of the Torah, meaning the Chumshi Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the Targum consistently in all aspects, in all situations, when Ava is mentioned in the Torah, it always uses a lashon in Torah. The Targum uses a lashon of the source of Rahmanis, Rachem, Rahmanis, meaning basically of mercy and compassion, if you want to translate that word into English. So Rahmanis is compassion or mercy, right? So Ava in the mindset of the Torah perspective, Ava is not this emotion which people feel and sense that they have an affection, a liking towards somebody to various degrees or not, and it's not an emotion at all. Ava, in terms of the perspective of the Torah, is a behavior. It's a behavior, not something which is simply an emotion. It's in a behavior which is that you're behaving towards a certain person with their needs and their desires in mind, and in terms of that you have mercy and rahmanas on that person, right, in order to help them fulfill their needs and their desires, right? So Ava is a completely different aspect of understanding from what we unfortunately have been brought up in, especially coming from Western society and their tainted, corrupt ideas of what Ava is all about. But suffice it to say that with that in mind, so we can understand this Mishnah in its simplicity and in a bit of a more deeper level. And when the Mishnah is saying "Kol Avashi Tolibidav," meaning if the Rahmanas and the mercy that you have towards a person is dependent on something, meaning the cause of you having mercy and compassion on somebody is based on something. right, based on something. So if that something is no longer there, it's now bottled, that thing which is causing you to have rahmanis and compassion for a person, if that thing is gone, right, then that will cause the avid to be gone. You'll no longer have the previous compassion or mercy on the person that you just bestowed upon them beforehand. Because whatever was motivating you to have the special, extra special mercy and compassion on that person is now gone. So now there's no motivation you to have extra motivation to be compassionate or merciful towards that person. And if it's not, if your mercy and compassion for a person is not dependent on any particular thing, right? So then that mercy and compassion will be essentially steadfast. It'll be unwavering, regardless of outside factors. So that's just a general preface to the Mishnah here in specifics. Okay, so I'm not sure if any of the swarm that you have there have any particular portion there. Rashi, however, I have a Rashi here in front of me. Rashi says that call Ava Shitoli B'Bever, any love, or all types of love which are dependent on something. So the call David Ava Shabbaolam, that means that any type of a Ava which is focused on something which is physical, something which is a physical reason to have compassion or mercy on this person. Meaning, for example, Yoifi, Rashi explains, is a certain beauty, right? You find this person beautiful in some way, or he says the niyuf, the person has romantic, has physical desires to fulfill with this other person, right? So those things are physically based, right? So since it's physically based, in essence, right, anything is the Mara, he's mentioned this from time to time also, we've discussed this, that anything which is physically based by definition cannot last forever, right? Only things which are spiritual have a eternal aspect of existence to themselves. But anything which is physically based, by definition, in essence, cannot exist forever. Right? So it's just a matter of how much time it will last or it will not last. But it's eventually not going to endure. Only spiritual things have an ability to endure. So those things which are, as Rashi mentioned, physically based, when they have a physical basis, so they're eventually not going to continue and endure. So therefore, once that basis of the relationship is gone, so therefore the Ava is gone as well. Velo Machmas, as he says, Kurva Reus, right? Kurva means that there's an affection, and Reus is a friendship. Person has an honest affection for a person, or an honest friendship with a person. So then that something is not going to be nullified, won't be bottled, as the expression of the Mishnah is, won't be bottled.
Two things. One, would you say that consideration is a element of true love that we, and the other one is, what would you call, instead of saying love, what word would you use, either in Ivrit or English, or something? What word could you use instead of love for the physical love, say,
Right. So I could be like the Rashi says here, Rashi is kurva v'reus. Kurva is like affection and reus is friendship.
Mhm.
So so you have friendship and what's the if you look at the if you take just look at the word say for friendship, for example, friendship. So what's the what kind of ideas and images surface through your mind when you think about this word friendship, right? Um, yeah, it's more than just an association between two people. A lot of people you know and you're associated with them, but you wouldn't necessarily consider them your friends, right? What sets one person aside and apart from another person? Who this person you consider your friend, and this person, you're happy with him, you're wonderful with him, but you don't consider him your friend, right? But you don't have anything against him. You don't have any negative feelings towards him, but nevertheless, he's not on the level of what you would say a friend. You wouldn't consider to be a friend of you. What is that line in the interpersonal relations cross that now sets this person aside and is considered to be what you would call him a friend of yours, whereas somebody else is not. You know?
I don't know.
No, that's something that's something to think about. Not we're just beginning this right now. Well, that's the whole point here.
Yeah. Okay.
And to think about it. When you learn these Mishnayos and Avos, it's supposed to stimulate you to try and think about these concepts. Normally, a person can go through many, many years and not really think about these concepts too deeply. Does your commentary mention anything about this
It just says that Baracha, that depends on a specific cause, that is something material, essential, such as wealth or beauty, rather than an unselfish union based on mutual respect and affection, and an interest in the good of the person loved. So I don't think that bit there is the important thing. An interest in the good of the person loved.
Oh, that's very good. Like that's what we would say, compassion or mercy, and compassion, and interest in the in the needs of the person. Right. So that even in that excuse me, that even in that English commentary is also approaching what the true definition of Avos should really be.
True love, you can be separated by miles and miles and miles, but physical love, the other kind of love, you need to be with each other. Separation leads to the destruction of that relationship.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. If there's no non-physical basis for the relationship, so the whole basis is based on the physicality of the relationship, which is based on the physical proximity. If there's no physical proximity, so the relationship sort of dissolves. Right.
Also, the love between David and Jonathan had to be true love, because they were both rivals for the kingship, and they could still sort of put that aside and still have this great relationship.
That's the perhaps why this is a prime example, because you would think that Yonasan, who was the son of Shaul, who would be theoretically the next king,
Right.
theoretically he's in line to be the next king, and David, who is the anointed to be the next king, you would think that if there was any opportunity for jealousy to take place, right, it would be under that circumstance. That would be the basic relationship was most at risk for jealousy.
Absolutely.
Jonas and David. Very good. That's a very good point. One second. So I want just to get one safer here. 1 second. Let me get a safer. Yeah, the Rebbeinu Yonah, the Rebbeinu Yonah speaks about this point about David and Yonasan, that being the prime example of Yonasan and David, is that you see that that because they had their Avos between the two of them, they were able to overcome. Meaning, naturally, there should be some type of concern and jealousy and difficulty for Yonasan and David to be true friends, because of the political situation that they shared between themselves. Meaning Yonasan the prince and David the anointed king, right? But the Ava that they had was what was the cause of their ability to overcome any, and it would be perfectly natural for them to be at odds with each other, right? It's an amazing thing, meaning naturally speaking, right? David and Yonasan should be competitors. They should be competitors, and they should have all the trapping of what competition carries with it, the jealousy and all the other things. And that was missing. Why? because because the Ava was what caused it to be um, uh, put aside. That the Ava was so strong and the Ava was so truthful, and so as it says, Ein Toli B'Davar, it was a truthful Ava. So therefore, that which was that caused the any jealousies and any petition which not naturally, very naturally would have existed between David and Yonasan, that caused all those things not to exist. So let me ask you a question, because this, they say there's a, you've heard the expression, there's a shidduch crisis. That's such an expression. So it is. There's really no shidduch crisis. That's not what you have to be concerned with. What the real crisis you have to be is a divorce crisis. Nobody talks about the divorce crisis, right? So it's an amazing thing. People are concerned about getting people married, but no one's concerned apparently about keeping people married, right? The divorce crisis is what's really the issue that has to be addressed. I mean, you have to examine what's going on, that people are not staying together, right? So this mission is a key. Kol ava shetoli b'davar, batel davar, batel ava. If people are getting married for the wrong reasons, and if they're looking for a mate, a partner, a spouse, for their own benefit, right? See, there's an interesting paradox that we should think about here. Getting married, the decision to marry somebody is probably the most selfish decision a person has to make in their life. Why? Because most people, when they're thinking about getting married to somebody, they're thinking, well, is this person that I'm thinking about, is that person good for me? Is that person good for me? And that's really that is probably the proper attitude. But is this person good for me? But beyond that, you have to think about who really thinks the opposite? Who thinks, am I the proper person for them? Am I the best person for them? Right? Everyone says, oh, my fiance, he's the best one for me. But does people think that I'm the best one for him, or I'm the best, or I'm the best one for her, right? People are thinking that that person over there, they're best for me, right? So that's an ava which is in general totally beduk. And the paradox is that even though that the natural process of thought is that the person should be thinking in terms of what's good for themselves in terms of their potential marriage partner. And it's I imagine, I'm not sure, I have to really work well to discuss this with true Das Torah, that when a person gets married, though, right, at the point of marriage, so now the whole situation is reversed. The whole situation, the whole basis of marriage is what you're now going to be doing to benefit the other person. right? Your entrance into marriage is something which is at the point of marriage, meaning as soon as you put the ring on the Kala's finger, now you're married. So now your whole focus should be, I'm saying this is the theoretical truth of it, whether that's actually the way it works. I mean, people need training in this. They're usually not trained properly in these attitudes. But at the point of when the marriage is finally consummated and there's now a ring on that woman's finger, so now your whole attitude is, what can I be doing, right, to benefit her, right? Up until the point of the marriage, you say, well, what I'm making my decision, what's going to be in terms of that person benefiting me. And at the point of the marriage, now it turns and reverses. So now you have to reverse and say, well, what am I going to be doing to benefit that person? Because if a person is simply in a situation of marriage and they're simply thinking about what that person's going to be doing for me, so that's going to be a recipe for a very short marriage. Right? Two people are in a relationship and they're simply thinking about what the other person's going to do for them. So that's a relationship which is not exactly stable. It's stable. It's very unstable.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, most people haven't been exposed to these concepts and these ideas. Right? They're not even thinking about these ideas in any way. And unfortunately, the divorce crisis is unfortunately not getting any better. So this concept of Ava, right? Ava, which is totally bedover. So we have to reevaluate the whole potential situation of marriage in terms of it not being. You have to see as best as you can it not being a situation which is Ava totally bedover. Because once it's Ava totally bedover, Bakula bedover, and Bakula Ava. So that's a little. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's a little bit what Rabbi Yonah is saying over here. That Ava she'ein lo hefsek. Meaning, what's Ava, which is ein totally bedover, there's no hefsek. There's no interruption of that Ava. That Ava is constant. It's unwavering, right? Unwavering. Because even let's put it this way, even in the context of a relationship, right? That let's say we're not talking about the global relationship itself. We're not talking about the micro relationship. Let's say we're talking about Ava, the kol regular, each and every moment. So it's not so easy that you should have, Ava each and every moment, right? But nevertheless, if it's Ava, which is ain't totally bedover, meaning the essence of the love, of the compassion, of the mercy, is not based on any one particular thing. That means that the situation of Ava is always in existence. There's no different. There's no wavering of that Ava. That Ava remains constant.
Mm.
Yeah. And in contrast, if it happens to be an Ava which is totally bedover, again, well, we can talk globally. The whole relationship could be nullified, right? That's one way of looking at it. If it's Ava which is totally bedover, so batla dover, batla Ava, that the whole relationship can be nullified. but nevertheless, he's also on a macro level, on a level of kol regular regi, each and every moment. So if it's something which is dependent on something, so then when that thing is existent, let's say on a daily basis, so there's Ava there. But if it's not existent, that's other points during the day, so there won't be Ava there at the other times of the day, right? So it's not only globally whether it's existent or not, but it's also on a micro level, whether it's existent or not, constantly or not. And Avish ain't totally, but it's constant. It's there constantly, right? Globally, and it's there also in the macro level as well.
Hmm.
The Rambam says about this Mishnah that Perush, divine thing. It all depends. The Rambam's explaining that it all depends on the basis of the Ava. What is the true basis of the Ava? So that when you enter into a relationship, especially that of marriage, you have to really try and understand and evaluate if you want to ensure that the foundation of the family, of the home, of the marriage is solid. You have to understand clearly what the basis of the relationship is. That's one of the insights of this Mishnah. You have to understand clearly what the basis of the Mishnah of the Ava is. What's the basis of the relationship? Is something which is totally bedover, something which is not totally bedover.
And what about both at the same time?
You're right. There could be. These are really, I would say, two ends of the spectrum. Meaning you have. I don't think it's completely black and white. Meaning, in general, people are complex creatures in complex relationships, right? So it's obviously many times going to be a combination of this, right? So it's worthwhile to you should really try and understand what's the primary basis. For example, the Chazal say if a person marries a woman because of money, or he marries a woman because of beauty, right? So that's the Chazal, the Gemara says that's not a very auspicious sign for the success of the marriage.
Right. Okay.
I'm sure if a person, if they even let's say they're marrying for this woman for money, but I would imagine they probably in most cases, except in maybe some extreme cases, I'm sure they have some type of a personal liking towards each other also. I'm not sure how many people would be willing to enter into a situation where there's no personal liking for the other person, and simply the money factor is the absolute only factor. Very
Royalty, they have that.
Excuse me.
They have you marry you prince, you marry this princess, and they could combine the two kingdoms, or we won't be at war or something like that, or you have access to the fortune. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Very nice, Mr. Shem. Good. So we'll take a bit of a break here, and we'll pick up soon, and we'll be learning. I guess we'll be learning Mr. Brewer. Maybe we'll spend a short time. We did basically a review of the Sultan of the Halachas of Sirius Omer. I think maybe we'll continue on in Chaylik days. Yeah, okay, in Mr. Brewer Chaylik days.
Okay. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
It's a shame. Very good. Thank you, Roy. You should have a wonderful week.
Okay.
Okay. What's today? Sunday.
Sunday, Yom Rishon.
Okay, nearly the end of the week.
Yeah, okay. See you all, see you tomorrow, see you soon then.
Okay, very good.
See you, man. See you.
Okay, see you later.
See you, Roy.
See you.